Hello and welcome everyone to our use case video walkthroughs. I'm Maria Marquis and I'm joined by the fabulous Rocky Moon. And today we're going to be walking through how to set up a project tracker or an initiative tracker using Coda. So Rocky, if you think about this particular use case, what do you think are some of the advantages people can get with managing their projects or initiatives inside of Coda?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Maria. So for me, project trackers, there's a lot of different options that you can go through and build them out. In Coda, though, the piece that I like the most is how easy it is to remind people to keep the project tracker updated. In my past, not now, in my past, I've built out project trackers and then they just sat like, all right, we got them started, and then they're stale and they no longer mean anything. But in Coda, it's really easy to keep people updated and for people to go in. You have a single source of truth where your statuses are updated. You're able to take notes and then ping people that are involved in different projects to make sure that they're getting deliverables to you as needed. So that's my favorite part about project trackers in Coda.
Yeah, I totally agree because sometimes you do all of that work setting it up and then no one uses it. And usually it's because it's not customized to how you and your team
Hmm.
actually get work done,
Hmm.
or you have so many different places that people have to go, go here for your notes, go here for the tasks, go here for the summary, that people just kind of get lost. But in Coda,
Yes,
we can bring all of that together, which
that's right.
which I absolutely love. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, Rocky and I in the past had been using this ugly Google sheet to get us started. And you can see we've been trying to do a lot of things here, right? We've got some things are in red and bold. That probably means it's important. Oh, yeah, urgent. It's true. We've got a true false. We've got some highlighting happening here. But ultimately, this is not very dynamic. And we have a bunch of different sheets down at the bottom where we're actually duplicating, right, with all of our notes. So if we wanted to bring this inside of Coda to allow us to start to consolidate and have that single source of truth, one of the things that we can do that I love is you can just copy and paste, right? So I can just grab all these things. I'm on a Mac today, so I'm going to do Command C. And then when I come back into Coda, I'm going to do Command V. And it just pastes all of that information in here for me. I'm going to give myself a little more room. The other thing that I love is that when you do this copy paste, Coda's going to take a look at that data and go, what kind of data is this? And automatically transform it to be more usable. So for example, Coda noticed that I had the same values for teams over and over again, so it made it into a handy little drop-down menu. Same thing with our status. For our date columns, like start and end, it just turned it into a nice little date picker, which is pretty great.
Awesome.
Assign to, that became a drop-down menu, and that true false became a checkbox. Now, if you don't like how anything comes over here, you can always drag and drop these things around. Like maybe I want start and end to be next to
Nice.
each other. Maybe I want assign to be over here. So all of that is adjustable. And if you're using another tool, not Sheets or Excel, we also have a bunch of importing options right here. So if I click on import, notice there's a bunch of different guided influences that you can do in this space. So all of that is there for you. I also love that Rocky is starting to make some changes here, right? Actually changing this column instead of a drop-down menu to be what's called our people column. So the column type here is people, which allows us to actually make a drop-down menu of everyone who's part of this doc with us. So I can see all of our team automatically coming through, which is a pretty exciting option for us. And we'll be able to play with that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm pumped
The
for
other
for
thing I
that
want to do
user
is
view.
just
And
name this. Oh yeah, Rocky, what's up?
so sorry, I was going to say I'm really pumped to do the user view in a minute with the people column. So just teasing a little bit what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah. And actually, Rocky, why not let's actually just show it now.
Let's do it.
So Rocky, do you want to talk a little bit about the user view and why you like it so much?
Yeah, absolutely. So, an easy way to do this is if I add a new page over on the left side there, and I can just call it my view of tasks. Typically, you might have, I know Maria was showing that spreadsheet before, you might have several sheets, and each one be named for an individual, and you filtered out that sheet so that way it only shows that individual's work. So you'd have a Maria sheet and a Rocky sheet and a Polly Rose and a Buck Du Bois sheet. In our case, we can get one page here and view that data, the all test data for each individual user. And to do that, I'll just type in the slash command here. and Maria will type in the slash command here, even better, and connect it to the all tasks. And then she can filter in the top of my view, even better, my tasks, love it. Filter there and add a filter for the assigned to column and click on the current user. And she should now see all of her tasks. Meanwhile, I see all of mine, and I can do a quick screenshot and just drop that right down here so you guys can see what mine looks like. So really cool that we get to see different images. This is what my screen looks like here. You can see that it's assigned to me and then Maria. So if you all were logged into the doc right now, you would be able to see your own assigned tasks. One of my favorite parts of project trackers.
Awesome. And if I change this, right, I could assign this to Rocky. Notice it now gets filtered out of my view. So this is automatically up to date, which is one of the things that I like, because back when I was managing projects using sheets or project management tools, inevitably I had multiple places where I need to make updates, which means I have multiple opportunities to completely mess up and ruin my data.
But
because we have this table view concept, we're actually able to have that stability, because any changes that I make here automatically show up back in this all tasks place. And any changes I make here, like assigning this to myself, automatically show up in right here, the my view of tasks. So wonderful. We can make views for all kinds of questions that we want to answer. We can also manipulate our data here to help it help us. One of my favorite things that we can do in Coda, it's pretty simple, but it's so valuable, is something called conditional formatting. So if we think back to this sheet, right, Rocky and I had been making things highlighted or red to try and communicate something about that task. Well, we can actually have Coda take care of all of that formatting for us, so we don't have to remember to turn things red if it's urgent, because let me tell you, I'll probably forget. So how we do that, I don't know about you, Rocky, but I will.
Absolutely.
We go to options, we choose conditional format right here, we add a rule, and in this case, what we're gonna do is say, hey, urgent. If urgent is checked, then I want it to be red. Now, notice it's automatically applying that to this column, but we could have that apply to any number of columns, right? Maybe I want it to be also to the project, team, assigned to. I can make it all the columns. That's a little bit much. So I think I might just have it stick with just urgent. But we can go ahead and have that show us what we're looking for. And notice Rocky is adding some for the team. So if the team is industrial design, we want that to be blue. What conditional formatting allows us to do is have those visual cues so we can very quickly look at this data and take what we need from it. We can very easily see sensors, industrial design, oh, that's mapping. And if any of this changes, right, if this becomes industrial design, notice the color changes as well. Now, conditional formatting is a great way to get those visual cues, but we can use that view tool, like we saw creating the My View of Tasks, to do the same thing, right? Maybe we want to have a view that just shows us the urgent stuff, so we don't have to scroll through and find it. We could do the same thing with all of our different teams. So let's go ahead and add that urgent area. I'm going to say this is urgent tasks, just like we did with the My View. I'm going to do slash, and I'll say table. And here I want to go to all tasks. I'm going to call this table the urgent task table. And then I'm going to add a filter, just like we saw before. In this case, if urgent is checked. So the same thing that we used when we were creating the conditional formatting. We can use that same logic right here. So now if something becomes not urgent, it just gets filtered out. Or if something gets added to be urgent, it's going to show up here. Now, in addition to creating that view, we can actually decide we want to see this differently. Because maybe we don't need all of this table data if we just want to see the urgent tasks. But we don't want to delete any of it. So some of the things we could do is we could decide to hide some columns. Maybe we don't want to see the status or the start. We just want the end date. We don't need the effort days. We don't need to see if it's urgent, right? We can change all of that. We could also decide, you know what, I want to see this differently. Maybe I want this to be a card view so I can see all of those tasks in a little bit more of a visual way. Or maybe I want to be detail view so I can page through them. Or calendar. Maybe I want to know when are all those things happening. Or maybe a timeline, right? We could change all of these things up depending on what we want to see it as. But all of the underlying data is the same. Rocky, what are some of the other views that you think are particularly helpful when it comes to a project tracker?
Yeah, absolutely. So the timeline view is huge, and I'd love to dive into that in a minute. But one thing I want to call it here is right now we are we are inheriting the conditional formatting from all tasks. But if at any point we don't want to do that, or if we want to add a rule specific to this table, we can. So we can go ahead and add into like the urgent is checked. And we can make these red if we want to. That, again, probably excessive because we know that this is the urgent table. But maybe instead of doing urgent is checked, we want to add in for when the end date is in the next 30 days. That probably is not going to be enough. And we can make it red. So if it's coming up in the next 30 days, we want to apply that to all columns. So we can see here that we got something coming up in this month, and that needs to be really highlighted for us there. And so when you have it that way, then it's easy to pull out like kind of your key pieces. But I really would love to do a timeline view, and so we can check out how that looks, and maybe even add in some dependencies.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm going to add a new subpage because, this is kind of a different purpose, right? We want to see a timeline. That's kind of a different intention. So I'm going to make a new page for that. We'll call this our timeline. And I'm going to do /, and I'm just going to start by typing timeline. And notice all of those options that have something to do with time, including packs and templates, show up here. So I'm going to choose timeline, and we're going to have it connect back to the all tasks table, so it's the same information. And let's give ourselves a little bit of room here because we've got a lot of tasks happening. And notice now I have a bunch of options. So I could have this be the full width, which means I can scroll through. I also love that I can see the little faces of whoever's working on it. I think that's really great. I could also say, I just want this to fit to the view that I'm looking at, the width of my page. But I actually think full might be a good idea here, Rocky.
Yeah, I love it. I think full view is the way to go.
Mm-hmm. We can then choose which column is the start date and which is the end date. We can choose which person is assigned to it. And we can also apply a dependency.
And I've actually created a dependency column for you. Yep.
Yeah, so it looks like Rocky has created a dependency column. And let's actually just, before we apply it here, let's actually take a look at how that happened.
Yeah.
So if we head back to our all tasks, because again, that's powering everything, notice Rocky added a column here. And he did that just by either clicking on the plus sign over here, add a column, or you can click on the little drop down of any of your columns and choose insert and a column before or after. Mm-hmm. In this case, we've chosen a special, there we go, kind of column. I'm getting so excited, I'm tripping over my words. It's called a lookup column. And what a lookup column does is it allows you to choose a table in your doc that can create the select list. In this case, Rocky just chose this table we're already working in, all tasks, which means that we have a drop down of all the tasks in this particular table, which I think is really helpful because now we can start to build in, we better do our testing before we do the second round of testing. This also allows us to just connect how all of these things relate to each other. So now, back in the timeline view, Rocky went to our options and timeline display and added the dependencies here as our dependency option. So now we can see how they're all connected. And in this case, we got a lot going on, so it looks kind of like a football play.
It does.
But what I like is that if any of these didn't work time-wise, like for example, if this dependency is actually ahead of where that other one needs to be, it'll actually change the coloring of how things are working. So that if something would not work out, it'll actually change these lines to red. So it's another visual cue to find out what's going on and what might be a problem and what could use some investigation. So I love that we get that timeline view. Anything else, Rocky, when it comes to timelines that you think would be helpful for folks to know?
I don't think so. Well, oh, I mean, this is hopefully at this point kind of a given, but as you make adjustments in your timeline view, it updates in all the other views as well, right? So whether you go back to my view or urgent tasks, those dates are going to update. So if we just look at first round testing, and right now it's between end of November, maybe beginning of December and January, I could stretch that out and bring it all the way back into May. And if we go back to my all task list, you will see that that date has updated to May 2nd. Which is nice that you can make those adjustments. So you can adjust it anywhere and it updates everywhere. It also automatically updated that effort days because that's calculated through that, I think. Oh, yes.
Yeah, the thing that I think is so helpful is that anywhere you are making a change, it's going to affect everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have some people on your team who really just want to look at that timeline view, and some people who really just want to look at the table, you don't have to worry because whatever work they're doing will translate everywhere else. So everyone on your team can kind of have it their own way without sacrificing your data integrity, which I think is pretty helpful.
Really great. Yeah, really great. I actually think I was wrong. It does not have that formula. So I'm just going to add it really quick and do end minus start, I think is what I need. And that'll give me my effort days. There we go. So now it's actually up because I was like, I think there's more than 44 days between May and January of the next year.
Yeah. And actually, this is a really good point, Rocky, that in our Google Sheet world, we had that just as a number, right? That was manually entered.
Mm-hmm.
But here we actually added a formula of the end date minus the start date to give us how long that is. So as these changes happen, the effort days also adjust, right? Maybe if I decide, oh, you know what, this isn't May, this is actually in October, notice the effort days change. And if we head back to our timeline view, first round testing is now starting in October. So there's a lot of stability and reliability really cool. that happens here. I also love that you added that formula just once in this this particular cell, and it applied to the entire column, which is another efficiency there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next thing that I think would be helpful, Rocky, is, whenever we're working on a project, it can be helpful to know like a summary of how we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? We've got 4 teams that are working on this, and I want to make it really easy so we can know kind of how's everyone doing. So we're actually going to change some things to help ourselves out. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this particular select list and I'm going to convert this to a table.
Yes.
So remember, Rocky made this lookup column for the dependencies, which means we can get all of the details about that task. I want to have the same thing happen here with our team. So I'm going to choose convert to table. I'm actually going to decide to put it on a new page that'll be kind of like our summary page. And I'm going to call it summary. Or actually, no, we'll call it team. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and create that. Notice it made a nice new page over here. I'm going to just go ahead and put that up there. Click on it. Now we've got this little area. We're going to name this particular like summary of teams. And now what we can do is we can start to calculate because this table is connected to the all tasks table. So I'm going to add a column which is going to be their total tasks and another column which is their completed tasks. Anything else we should add here, Rocky? What do you think?
After we do these 2, we could do like % complete as well.
Ooh, yeah, love it.
Yeah.
% complete, beautiful. So we can use formulas inside of Coda. We can use them just right in the canvas, right? I could say equals 2 times 2, right? You can have those there. Awesome. But we can also put formulas inside of our table. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to say, hey, Coda, I want you to look at that all tasks table where we started today. Then I'm going to do this dot. And in Coda formulas, the dot is like saying, and then. So the next step. First, look at all tasks, and then I want to filter where the team of that task is equal to the one in this row, right? So is it sensors, industrial design, mapping? And then all I want to do is count. So we say, look at the all tasks table, look at this part of the table where the team is equal to the one in this row, and then count the number of tasks that there are. I now press enter, boom, we can see it there. Rocky added another formula
Check
over
me
here.
out, make sure it's right.
Ooh, yeah, so Rocky is adding another little piece. we have still looking at all tasks. We still are filtering where the team is equal to this row. And then we're adding where the status is done. So it's completed. And then we're counting it. And I love that we can change these to be that number column type instead of text. And now to do a percent complete, all we need to do is say equals completed tasks divided by the total tasks. And then I'm going to change this column type to be a percent.
Perfect.
And now we've got that there. And if I don't want that behind the decimal, I can just go to the percents options and say, hey, just like, don't show me the decimal points. Nobody wants that here. Get out. So now we see up to the second result of how we're doing. So as people are starting to complete tasks, we're going to see them change here. And we can also add our good friend conditional formatting here as well. By going to options, conditional format, I'm going to go to the percent complete, and I'm going to use this color scale. Because it's going to show me kind of who's fallen behind and who's really succeeding. We could also have it be from red, yellow to green. We could have it be rainbow if you're feeling like that as well. So it's a great way to understand how people are doing, again, very quickly by looking at it. And we don't need to worry about updating this every Monday before we send out an update. It's automatically going to be completely correct based on what's happening elsewhere. Rocky, anything else on this summary that you think is helpful, or other formulas that you think are good for people to know about?
I'm thinking that we could do a pie chart that also shows the percentage complete based upon, and we could filter it by team. So we would ultimately create 4. Or better yet, we could do one version of this that's just a bar chart that just shows how many total tasks each team has, so we could see that mapped out instead. So maybe that's a little easier to do than each team. Yeah, I like that one, I think.
Well, and I love that you're pointing out that now that we have this data here, we can look at it in any number of ways, right? We can decide exactly what we need. So if we want that bar chart, we could say, hey, connect to that team table, and we can see, progress. We'll call this team progress. And now, let's give ourselves some space. We have some options, right? The horizontal axis, team feels good. And then we can choose what are the values we want to see. So we have the total tasks, and we could choose to count them. We've also got, let's see, maybe we want to have our completed tasks. We'll choose to count that. We can go ahead and see our percent complete. Some feels good. You can just decide how you want to segment it as well. So all of this are things that you can do here. We could say, maybe I want it to be horizontal instead of vertical, right? Oh yeah, we don't want to count, we want to sum.
No, that's right. I just made a quick change to see where we were. But that looks really good.
Yeah, and we could also see the average or the max, the unique, right? We can play with this. We can decide the colors that feel good to us, right? Maybe I want to do these because it just feels more fun. Yeah. And you can also decide if you want to stack them, right? Like show me the different stacked bits there. So just in a couple clicks, we automatically have a dashboard of how we're doing, which can be really helpful when we're starting to work with other teams.
Awesome.
If we head back to the all tasks, obviously as we start to work, we're going to have more and more tasks that we're working on. Now, if we want to add new tasks, we can certainly scroll to the bottom and just click new row or press enter, right? All of those things are possible. But why do that when we can have a button instead?
Got to do the button.
So, what was that, Rocky?
I just said you got to do the button.
Yes, totally. Buttons are the best. So I'm going to do /button. I'm going to say a new button, and we're going to call this the task adder. The label will say add a task to the tracker. And then the action is going to be, here we can choose all kinds of actions for a button to take, but I'm going to choose add row. And then we'll say, hey, add it to that all tasks table, please. And maybe I want to do some preset values, right? So maybe if you're going to add a task, I want it to automatically be assigned to you.
Nice.
So I'm going to use the same idea that we had by creating that view for my tasks by saying equals and user. So whoever clicks the button, they're going to be added to assign to. I could choose to open the row for editing, which Rocky and I will show you what that means in just a moment. We can decide how big we want this button to be, what color. And
Love it.
also maybe an icon. Rocky, what do you think as far as icons?
I would I would start with typing in the word plus and see what comes through. But I feel like that's not that cool. We have Batman on our internal one for adding updates, so the Batman symbol is pretty sweet too. But plus is probably like that actually makes sense. Yeah, I think we have that second one. That's awesome. Yeah. Is that Joker at the end? That's nice, yeah.
And so now if we click on this button, add task to tracker, this is what open row for editing
Nice.
does, right? It allows you to put in, give Rocky a high five. The dependency is first round testing. The team, that's going to be industrial design. Notice it's
Obviously.
automatically assigned to me because I'm clicking the button. The status is in progress. It's coming to you, Rocky. We could say start date, end date. It's going to fill in the effort automatically. I could say, yes, this is urgent, or no, it's not, right? We can choose whatever we like there. And then we've got that added right to the bottom. Give Rocky a high five. And if I say, yeah, I want it to be urgent, and I head over here, notice I'm going to see under my view of tasks, give Rocky a high five. If I go to urgent, it's going to be listed as urgent, give Rocky a high five, and it's due within the next 30 days, which is why it's red.
Love
And
it.
if I head to my timeline view, I will also see give Rocky a high five, and I will see its dependencies. So all of this happens automatically. Cool. Any other buttons that you like to add to docs that you build, Rocky, when it comes to projects?
So my next button I was going to talk about is a pack button where we can send a reminder. Do you want to do Slack or Gmail?
Ooh, I mean, maybe we just decide to send, maybe just do email.
Do
'Cause,
email.
like, why not?
That sounds great. So I would love to do a button in that sends this page out with updates, or even better, could we do a column button that lets the assigned to know when their task is past due?
Yeah.
I'm getting this is
Send a
getting
reminder.
this is getting fancy.
I love it. So here, one of the things we can do is we can choose pack. And there's a
Nice.
couple that we have here just automatically, but if you click discover more packs, it's going to allow you to see all of the ones that we have. So we could do Gmail, right? Click on that. I just add this to the doc. I'm going to sign in once and then just set it up real quick, just a couple of clicks. Now I've got it as part of this doc and I can start to use its little superpowers.
Awesome.
So I'm going to click here, go to the button options, send a reminder, and now under my little packs, I have Gmail. And I could say send an email, and I could have it be to, and maybe I want it to be equals the assigned to dot their email, so whatever their email is. The subject could be, you have a task due, with a lot of exclamation points. And then the content here, this could be basic text, or we could even use a formula here if we wanted to. For just the sake of example, let's say update your task, right? But we could use the formulas to pull in whatever the task of this row is. And then we can even add more things, right? A CC, a BCC, a hide signature, right? You can do all kinds of stuff. You can then choose the color, choose the icon just like we saw before. And now we can click on this button and it'll automatically send an email to that person with all of the details that we've done. One of the things I might do is actually add a disable state to this button.
Nice. Nice.
So we go there. We could choose to disable it if the status is equal to done, right?
Sounds
So
great.
if it's done, we don't want to send that reminder. And notice for all the things that are done, it's grayed out. So we don't have any issues with that right there.
That's perfect. And on that note, I also added in an automation if we want to go through. So that way, every day at 9 a.m., it checks to see if your task is past due. And if it is, it will send you that email until you mark it as done. It will press that button and say, hey, send that email that you're past, that you need to do your task.
Excellent. Yeah, so let's take a look. We have when the day, let's do it at 9 a.m. So we're checking that every single day. And then we're going to look if this all tasks end date is before today, then we're going to push the button. So we actually have it happening automatically. So Rocky and I don't need to worry about bothering people. We actually have the button that's disabled if it's completed, and we know that it's not going to go through then. And we have this little if statement that's helping us actually move forward. So all we need to do is turn this little guy on, and then those automations will automatically occur.
Awesome.
The last thing that Rocky and I want to show you today is how you can actually have a subtable to be able to see things in a little more detail. So we had that handy little Teams table here, and this is connected to all tasks. So what we could do is we could click on this little plus icon, and notice there's this little referenced by option. If we choose this, it shows, hey, that's being referenced in the all tasks table. I could go ahead and click that. It's going to do all of the formulas for me and pull in everything that's connected. Now I'm going to go to the columns, and I'm going to hide that just for this view because we don't need it. But if I go into this particular row, I can choose to edit the layout. And one of the things I can do is say, hey, I want to show the all tasks here. And I can decide, do I want it to be just those little chips, or do I want it to be a table? And in this case, I want it to be that subtable. And any changes I make here, like saying, oh, this is actually, in progress, or it's not the sensors team, it's actually industrial design. Notice it's getting filtered out, and it's going to show up everywhere else. So it's just another linked location for us to start to work and play. And then if we were to switch this to be a detail view, notice that little subtable shows up right there. All right. Fabulous. Anything else, Rocky, that we should be showing folks today that you think would be helpful?
That feels really good. Yeah, I think we're in the right spot. Was there anything else that you're thinking of that, like, hey, we want to add this last piece?
Ooh, yeah. One other thing I literally just thought of. Maybe for these teams, we want to have a place for them to leave notes.
Nice.
What we could do is click here and choose this canvas column.
Love it.
And call this notes. And what this is this is a Coda doc inside a Coda doc. So if I click on this open, it has a whole notes area where I could add a table, or I could add a calendar, right? Or I could add images, right? By doing an image. So this is just another place for us to do notes, or I could do pound space, and now I've got a heading for, today is the August meeting notes, and maybe we want to add a checklist of stuff, whatever we want to do there, right? So checklist, and Rocky and I could be working here together. So like call vendors, review pizza toppings, and Rocky and I can be taking all of our notes, and this is all right there for people. So it's a wonderful way to combine text and tables in one spot, right? We've got our little header image, which is super fun right there. And we can also have different Coda pages that are just for our notes. So your text and your tables can be all next to each other, and it's all searchable, right? If I want to search for high five, right there, I can see it's listed there. If high five is in our notes and I search high five, it's going to show me the notes as well. So I can see all of that and jump right there. So lots of fun ways to be able to review and make sure you always have exactly what you need, no matter where you are, whether or not it's in the entire doc or even in a particular table. High five. All right, well, that's just a couple things that you all can do to start building your own project trackers. Now it's time to just go in, play, and start customizing it to how you and your team like to do work. All right, y'all, we'll see you around. Thanks.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.